Will Braeden Davis compete at the Army Black Knight Invitational this weekend? At this point, it's still a mystery.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And as always, thanks so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. My name is Zach Seyko. I'm your host of the show, and we're talking Braeden Davis's availability and how that could impact this weekend and maybe long term. But it doesn't seem to be that concerning based on what we've heard from Cael Sanderson and the fact that Braeden Davis was able to wrestle through against Drexel. So for those who are unaware, Braeden Davis, stoppage in time against Drexel, looked like he sustained an injury and was checked out by the medical staff, and he ended up competing and winning. He competed all the way through, and he ended up winning that bout. It was close, but Braeden Davis took care of business. And then Cael has been asked about this multiple times. What is Braeden Davis's availability going to be moving forward? Is this a long-term injury? Is this a short-term injury? And then based on the way that he's answered, this is a short-term injury. But there's still not a lot of answers right now since the tournament is just a few days away at this point in time. And Braeden Davis did wrestle through, but it's something that they've been very open about in the fact that they need to continue to evaluate his availability. So he is registered for the Army Black Knight Invitational. He is registered, but we will not know if he actually competes until the day of. So that's going to be Sunday on the actual day of the Army Black Knight Invitational. And until the tournament starts, that is when we will have an answer as far as Braeden Davis competing or not. But he is registered, so that is at least a good sign. It's trending in the right direction that, hey, he wrestled through. He wrestled through that match against Drexel, and he won. And then Cael describes this as a short-term injury versus a long-term injury, but still he needs to be evaluated to see if he can go. And then he is registered for the Black Knight Invitational. So I think that's a good sign. If he wasn't on the list, then there's your answer, and that is more concerning. But the good news above all of this is that Davis is available and that he's working his way back and that this is a short-term issue. So we won't know if he will compete at this tournament this weekend. It would be interesting to see because there are some talented wrestlers at 133. Michigan State has Tristan Lean, for example, that's going to be wrestling there. I think that would be an incredible matchup there. But Penn State, if Braeden Davis is not available for an extended period of time. So as exciting as that would be to see Davis wrestle against some fair competition, some quality competition at this week's Black Knight Invitational, maybe Penn State needs to be cautious here and think a little bit long-term so that Davis can fully recover because Aaron Nagao isn't readily available. So Davis sustaining this, what we know as a short-term injury here, Nagao is also dealing with some bumps and bruises of his own. Nagao, now, I will say this because I saw this, Nagao is there, he's present, he's working out. When the Cael Sanderson press conference and then outside of the mat room, Aaron Nagao walked through and then started doing some simple muscle exercises in the adjacent room. So he is there and he is training, but as Cael said, Nagao is working his way back from an injury that he had sustained in the offseason leading up to this point. So now at 133, you don't have Davis at 100%. You don't have Nagao at 100%. What are your other options? And that's why both of those wrestlers are so important because there's the debate that who's better, Davis or Nagao? Well, at this point in time, it seems like Davis is going to be the 133-pound starter regardless of Nagao's situation because Davis is a true sophomore. And they still had the opportunity to preserve his red shirt. If they were really concerned about his eligibility and had an ulterior plan, a backup plan to say, okay, maybe we redshirt him, have him develop a little further, and then we bring him back. Davis wouldn't have been the starter against Drexel if that was the case. So Davis is the starter at 133 pounds. Let's clear that up. But Nagao is just as valuable because he has All-America potential. If Davis, depth is important here. as important as having 10 starters, of course, but depth. I mean, we can speak to that about Shane Van Ness and Tyler Kasak. So Nagau's presence is important. If I don't want to speak anything into existence here. Davis seems to be fine and trending in the right direction, but you also do need a contingency plan. Okay, so now Davis isn't 100%. Nagau isn't 100%. Gary Steen is registered for the Black Knight Invitational, and for anybody wondering, Nagau is not registered for the Black Knight Invitational this weekend. But that's Penn State's outlook. You have Davis, you have Nagau, and you have Gary Steen, and Gary Steen's a veteran. He's a veteran of the sport. He understands how this works, but he's clearly not to the caliber of a Davis or even a Nagau. I think Steen is a quality wrestler. I don't doubt his ability, but when we're talking about who is the best available at 133 pounds for Penn State, it is Davis, Nagau, and then Steen. But it will be interesting to see Steen compete at the Black Knight Invitational. So hopefully Davis will continue to trend in the right direction, at least on the latest intel. Davis is registered for the Black Knight Invitational. He may or may not compete. And if he does compete, he will have some interesting matchups along the way. And I have I have no doubt about the fact that Davis, whether he's 75%, 95%, 110%, he is the favorite to win at the Black Knight Invitational in my mind. I look at that list, and there are not a lot. Like I said, I think Tristan Lean will at least challenge him, but Davis looks like he's gone to another level. That's what the coaches have said about him. That's what Jeff Byers has said about him. The voice of Penn State wrestling is that Davis has reached another level here. So confidence is high for Davis, and you hate to see him sustain an injury like that, especially early in the season. And then Nagau is working his way back, and then Gary Steen is there as well. So that's 133 pounds at the moment. And we'll see how it all unfolds. Davis should be the favorite. I think a healthy Nagau would win at this weekend's competition as well. But those guys got to work their way back, and there's no need to rush them. Davis doesn't have to wrestle at this tournament. If he's not ready to go, I don't think Penn State should wrestle him. And they should just move forward with Gary Steen as the only wrestler for Penn State at 133 pounds. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. The wrestlers available at 133 pounds, what you're looking forward to most about Davis, and what Nagau can do for this team when he is available, when he is at full strength. If you're not already, become an everyday or subscribe to Locked On Nittany Lions on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts for the latest conversations around Penn State wrestling, as we will have more coverage, have more conversations about this Black Knight Invitational, as well as Penn State's going to have a lot of questions answered about its starting lineup, yes, at this tournament. So we'll have more coverage on the way, more conversations about Penn State wrestling here on Locked On Nittany Lions.